Okay, so I'm at my local outdoor shop and I see this hydration solution called Hydra Pack. Naturally, I assume it's for safely transporting a Hydra. You know, the mythical beast regenerates heads, needs moisture. Makes sense, right? Turns out no, not even close. Hydra Pack isn't for monsters, it's for humans. Humans doing all kinds of cool stuff outside. Running, riding, climbing, through hiking, even just hiking, you name it. And it's not some glorified water bottle. We're talking about hydration experts who make a modular, reversible, PFAS-free hydration platform. We're talking high-flow bite valves, plug-and-play hose systems, collapsible, heat-resistant, ultra-durable TPU reservoirs that practically clean themselves. It's hydration tech so advanced, it might as well have been built for a mythical creature. I mean, did you know that over 90 of your favorite outdoor brands already think so? And they use Hydra Pack technology in their products. And get this, they even have a retirement program. Repack takes old bottles from any brand and gives them a second life. Circularity, no landfill, no dragon hoarding, and retailers, Hydra Pack is accepting new partners for their Repack program, and this is something you definitely want to get on board with. So yeah, not a Hydra Pack, but the legendary Hydra Pack. Learn more at hydrapack.com. And hey, if you're wondering how Hydra Pack and the Rockfight got together, well, it was because of our mutual friends at Darby Communications, because finding incredible solutions to get a message out there, that's just what Darby does. Welcome to the Rockfight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin, and today we're hitting some outdoor industry headlines with producer Dave and Eoin Comerford. But before we get to that, come back to the Rockfight this Wednesday to hear Shantae Salamera and I dig into some of the latest stories that come out of the outdoor world and community. Also, tomorrow you're going to get a new episode of Open Container with host Doug Schnitzbahn here on the Rockfight Podcast Network. Doug's guest this week, author and river guide Bridget Crocker. Find Open Container wherever you get your pods. And lastly, if you're heading to Switchback in June, be sure to put the Rockfight live on your agenda for Tuesday, June 17th at 5 o'clock in the Trailheads Theater. I'll be there with producer Dave, with Eoin, with Shantae. It's going to be the event of the summer. Don't miss it. All right, stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Rockfight, Rockfight, Rockfight.
Today's episode of The Rockfight is presented by Oboes, who wants to share their love of hiking, and we want to help them by uncovering all the different reasons we love to take the long walk, including the following reasons. Number 1, because summit selfies? Well, you know, they're a vibe. Number 2, because hiking is free cardio disguised as fun. Number 3, to wear zip-off pants unironically. Number 4, hiking means the Bridger Boot Collection. The Bridger Ridge is here to help you smooth out the rough trails in front of you. With enhanced stability and protection, the Bridger Ridge is Oboe's first boot with Gore-Tex. So bring on the smiles and the miles in the Bridger Ridge. And if you find yourself in or near Boone, North Carolina, stop in and see the good folks at Footsloggers, which is in the running for the best retailer name ever. And get yourself a pair of Bridger Ridges. And this hiking appreciation moment is brought to you by Oboes of Bozeman, Montana, certified B Corp 6 million tree planter and inhabitant of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Oboes is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboes love hiking. Okay, it's Monday here in the Rockfight, which means I'm here with Captain Eoin Comerford and producer Dave. And guys, it's the first time I've seen you since coming off the heels of last week's top 5 apparel list, which we got surprisingly little hate for. Is that just because we fucking nailed it? I mean, do people just have more opinions about shoes and gear?
They're just tired from hate of all the other gear lists we've done.
I think they were all still in a food coma from Memorial Day and just it sailed right by. I do actually, though, think that your point about people having more opinions about gear is true, right? Because there are so many options for apparel, and people have opinions, but like gear is, and footwear is basically gear as well. I think it's gear for your feet. It's much more personal, I think, for a lot of people.
I think you're right. Like if you showed up to a run and you had on like the main competitive brand of the brand I was wearing, I'd be like, hey man, you're wearing the wrong shoes, right? You know, immediately would have an opinion about like why you're wearing the shoes that I don't like. Whereas it's like, oh, hey, nice Arc'teryx jacket. I'm wearing a Patagonia jacket. Cool. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, our top story today is presented by your hub for ultralight gear, Garage Grown Gear. Head to garagegrowngear.com and check them out. So I heard from Chase at the Utah State Outdoor Archive this week, who heard our episode about top 5 apparel. And he wanted us to pour out a little bit for the many, many, many defunct outdoor brands. And it made me wonder if we could go sort of full pet cemetery and bring back some of our dearly departed outdoor brands. Because he mentioned that they have probably hundreds of defunct brands in the archive at this point, just brands that you kind of forgot that even existed or maybe didn't even know they existed. So I thought I'd give you guys a list and let's see which ones we could bring back if we could. Like, is it because the product that they were known for is missing? Is it because, hey, it was just a cool brand and we miss it, or a personal bias? So of the list Chase sent me, the list I have is Bibler Tents, Frostline Kits, Vask Footwear, a little recent addition to this list. Maybe there's still hope there for Vask somewhere if somebody out there is listening. Dana Design, complicated given the...
Dana Designs, plural.
Yeah, Designs, excuse me. Thank you.
Yes.
I got to fix the doc. Designs, and also, relevant given what's happening at Mystery Ranch and the involvement of Dana Gleason. And then I have a smuggle. For number 5, I have Moonstone or Cloudveil. I kind of feel like those were sort of like the two apparel brands du jour of the late 90s, early 2000s. And, you would only bring back one of the two if you could. So
I think there's a missing brand here from this list, though, Colin.
White Stag?
We can't get White Stag, Early Winters. Yeah, let's go back.
There's so many.
No, way old. How about
you are
Go Light?
dating yourselves dramatically here at this point. Go Light.
I feel bad. I should have brought Go Light. I worked for Go Light. I should have brought
I'm
them
adding it to the list right now. It's just
that's
going.
clearly the winner.
Yeah, I'm going right now.
If you're over the age of 40 in the outdoor industry, you probably spent at least a year working for Go Light at some point. Oh, it's one word, Dave. There's no space, just to let you know. Yeah.
It was a typographical error. Please stop. Formatting.
I thought this was all these were the brands that kind of stuck out to me when I saw the list. What did you guys? Do you have any memories?
Actually,
of
I have
Bibler
a couple others that I didn't think made the list though either. Though I think if you're adding,
well, it would be fun to do a draft, but man, it would take some research because we'd actually have to inform everybody who the brand was when we're drafting. We couldn't just assume that people know who these guys are.
If you're under 40 and listening to this podcast, you're like, what are they talking about? Who are these brands?
That's a pretty big presumption that anyone under 40 is listening to this podcast.
That is fair. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I do think though, like Moose Jaw you mentioned. That's an outdoor brand that's no longer with us.
Sorry,
Does
Owen.
that belong here?
Now you got to make Owen cry on the pod.
You are. I'm tearing up a little bit over here.
Right, and then just to stay topical, you could look at the entire portfolio suite of liberated brands. My God, you're talking Volcom, Billabong, Quicksilver, Roxy, Ruka, Spider, Element, Von Zipper, DC. Oh my gosh, all grouped together in one Titanic.
They're still alive. Yeah,
they are. It's the holding company that we don't get to.
What about Jerry?
Love and cherish. Who?
Jerry.
Oh, yeah,
that's a good one.
Right.
That's a good one. No, the authentic brands, the future authentic brands episode we mentioned last week. That's going to happen. We got to remember. We can't forget to do that.
And the other one I wanted to add to this is it's an outlier, but in the kind of the way Yeti has redefined the whole kind of cooler segment, the coolest cooler. I don't know if you remember the coolest cooler.
No,
but,
I don't remember the coolest cooler.
In 2014, they were I think the most successful Kickstarter
that thing
concept ever. They raised like $13 million to build the ultimate party cooler with a blender and a Bluetooth speaker and a USB charger.
This sounds like a Saturday Night Live sketch.
It is not.
It's true.
And they raised $13 million. 62,000 supporters helped fund $13 million. And within 5 years, they'd spent all the money and went bankrupt, and nobody got their cooler. 20,000 people didn't get their coolers.
Well,
sounds
right.
Because
they didn't really design the thing. It was just this hodgepodge of ideas, and then they realized that when they oh fuck, how do we actually make this thing? Because it was priced at like some ridiculously low price, like I don't know, like $200 or something. There was no way you could do all that for that price. It was a
$2,200 cooler, which in today's market would probably be just fine. It'd be mid range. But the coolest cooler.
Which brewery did the party ball? Was that Coors or was that Bud?
That was Coors.
Coors
party
I feel
ball.
like if the party ball came out in 2025, it would be a Kickstarter. It would not be like by.
Well, anyway, I wanted to add coolest cooler to the list.
Coolest cooler with a party ball sounds great.
Right.
Well, so what are your memories? Do you guys remember Bibler tents? They were sort of like the top of the pyramid tent back in the day.
Well, yeah, and like I joined the outdoor industry in 2008, and they had been acquired by Black Diamond in 1997, and I think at the time they still had some tents in the line that were called Bibbler, but it was you could buy them under the Black Diamond, and really now the tents really, if you look at Black Diamond tents today, a lot of it is influenced by Bibbler, and even the tents like the Ahwahnee tent is still sold today, just as a Black Diamond tent.
So the DNA is still there.
It's
kinda
yeah. So
there.
I mean, okay, if you
Okay.
still want to buy Bibbler tents, you can buy Bibbler tents. Really, I think.
All right, so they're out. So Bibblers, we don't need to bring Bibbler back. What about Dana? I mean, I feel like Dana is worthy of a conversation, given that we're probably going to lose Mystery Ranch later this year. Yeah, that's the rumor, as I've heard about on this podcast. So, what do we think about Dana Designs? Do we miss Dana Designs? Dana Designs was a big deal in the 90s.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think you're sort of at a similar but different in that, yes, it was sold to K2 in 95, and then ultimately it was merged into Marmot. So you could say that it influenced some of the Marmot pack designs, but ultimately, really, the successor of Dana Designs is Mystery Ranch.
Right. But that's just going to become Yeti.
Yeah, but so they did bring back Dana Designs. It was Mystery
and now
Ranch.
it will just be Yeti, kind of like how Bibbler is in BD. Got it. Has anyone sold anything to K2 and had it work out? Do we? Is there a win in that?
No comment.
Sorry, K2 taking shots over here, but like, and then they sold the K2. Like, oh no, that's the moment of like VH1 behind the music. Like, oh, and then things got bad behind the scenes.
And then they went K2.
We're going full K2.
Yep.
What about my combo of Cloud Veil Moonstone? Do you guys have any memories of those brands?
Definitely Cloud Veil. But I mean, Cloud Veil has had so many reincarnations over the years. I mean, because it was an iconic look at the time, sort of blending this sort of Western, like the Western yoke on the jackets with a more of a performance product. Super cool. But to me, similar to these other two, Cloud Veil lives on today in Stio, right?
True.
Because the founder Stephen Sullivan really went on to and kind of getting that whole sort of mountain vibe in their product. And I did a little bit of research. Cloud Veil actually exists today. You've got Cloud Veil Mountain Shop. Somebody owns the brand, and is sort of slapping it on what looks like some relatively generic outdoor product.
I guess to that point, GoLight still exists. I think if you go to GoLight.com, I believe it is someone else must have bought the brand name, because then they sell like just cheap tech tees or something like that on there. But cool.
We're living in the memory of what they were.
Oh
right?
yeah,
absolutely. Cloud Veil, like you said, I think they definitely had a look and defined the mountain lifestyle before we put a name to it, like in the way we do today. They also had
it was a big deal in Jackson. I mean, that was like a part of like the community of Jackson was.
And they also had pretty hip advertising and messaging. Like they were in all kind of the more underground media sources back then. Not the big glossies, but definitely in all the free papers that you'd get in the coffee shops and the specialty stores. And it was very real on. Let's call it core messaging in the sense. It was definitely aimed at the community of dirtbags and enthusiasts, which really added to their credibility. It was good stuff.
I think actually, sorry, just back to Cloud Veil for a second, but I think actually there could be a market there. You think about the huge success of the whole Yellowstone franchise and this sort of romanticizing of that kind of whole Montana, Wyoming kind of space, right? So if you were to bring that back, some of that sort of Western vibe, but into a performance product, I don't know. I think there could be something there.
Performance rawhide.
Wear like bolo ties with your Gore-Tex.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dyneema
Gore-Tex bolo ties. Fantastic.
Dyneema bolos.
That's amazing.
Lloyd, come on. We're in your segment right now, Lloyd. Get on that. We do that at Garage Growing Gear. Dyneema bolos.
Well, actually, it's a boa. It's a boa that you use for the bolo.
Dave is just he's all right. We're gonna lose Dave. He's gonna spend the rest of the episode creating a boa bolo. Genius. Good job, Owen. Why did Owen leave the pod? Well, he hit it big with his boa bolo company that he
ties.
founded.
That's right. And his waterproof rawhide collection.
You know it.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, the thing about Moonstone is that I always looked at Moonstone working retail as like Moonstone was there with like a Patagonia, or like if it had that logo on it, I just wanted it. It was just the brand was cool, maybe beyond the product. That's my memory of Moonstone more than anything else.
This one predates me, but okay, can you guess who owns Moonstone today? Don't look at the notes. Who owns Moonstone today?
I would have thought it would just be like available. Like I didn't know somebody actually owned it now.
A card and gift supply company out of Chicago.
No. None other than Columbia Sportswear Company.
Come on.
Yeah. So Moonstone, it went through, it was like a million people touched this thing. It was sold to OIG, the Outdoor Industry Group, then Esprit, then Jerry for a hot minute.
Esprit,
remember that?
That's a nuts.
But then it was sold to Pacific Trails, which was ultimately bought by Columbia in 2006. And they still use Pacific Trails, I think, for a while. I don't know if they still use it. But yeah, as part of the Pacific Trails deal, they got the Moonstone IP, but I don't think they've ever used it. But I think it would be cool. Bring that back.
You could bring it back as a capsule collection inside a Mountain Hardware or something like that then. We should talk to Troy about that when we see him at Switchback.
Absolutely. Especially in the sleeping bag category, because that's where they were really known. You know, and obviously they did some Gore-Tex jackets and stuff, but yeah, like the Mountain Hardware Moonstone collection would be cool.
That would be really cool. Dave, do you approve of that idea?
Yeah, I'm already taking it beyond sleeping bags and into kind of the prana space of techno shaman lifestyle. You know, that could be cool.
I put Frostline on it because it's a kit, like you would make your own, and I feel like in the sort of anti-technology era that I feel like we're gonna be, there's gonna be young people who are like gonna go back to having flip phones or dial-up phones, and they'll want to make their own things. And I feel like there's there for that as a small category of make your own apparel, make your own sleeping bags, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't totally buy that, but maybe.
I feel like that's a segment that is underserved. People want to make their own stuff. Rumpel could have a Frostline kit. Make your own Rumpel. Sew it together yourself.
I think that already exists.
Yeah, that's right. Just go to Joanne Fabrics and buy some fabric.
Exactly.
Right.
It's right.
The last one, well, before we get to the ones that Dave added to the list, Vask. I think Vask is the one on the list that could probably still come back because the Sundowner was such a that's the brand. Like it's just somebody should just pick that up right now and just make the Sundowner, please.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you have some words about Go Light, Dave?
Well, you know, Go Light's a viable part of branding. If you're talking about defunct brands that had a moment that probably have viability today. And I don't know what somebody's doing it then, but the idea of a Go Light within, I mean, look at where Ultralight has gone since then. Right? It's become its own standalone category where they were out there kind of talking about it by themselves. And one of those maybe where they were a little too early, you know, for kind of a mainstream or adoption of it. But I've always thought that the brand, what it stood for and what it could be, it never actually the brand never really got to what it could be from a larger category kind of icon. So yeah, I think there's definitely
we'll dig into why when we do our 10-part series about the history of Go Light. I think there's not much to say about a 10-year-old brand.
That's right.
But if Go Light was around today in the way that it was back then, you know where it would be sold?
Tell me.
Garage Grown Gear.
Garage Grown Gear, which is an
100%.
online destination for all things ultralight backpacking gear. They carry everything you need for your next adventure into the wild with a pack that won't weigh you down. And for a limited time, when you order $100 or more of gear, you can get a free Cloud9 inflatable pillow from Enlightened Equipment. Cloud9 for a pillow. Great name. Just killing it with the names of Garage Grown Gear. Gearheads love this pillow for its shape and feel. So go check it out via the link in the show notes, garagegrowngear.com. And shout out to Shantae Salabera because we didn't say GGG in the copy of this week. So she can rest easy.
That's I did have one brand that we didn't get to that was founded in 2007 and then 4 years later was gone, and that was the South Butt. I don't know if you remember the South Butt.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right?
Well, that was like when Life Sucks or The Life is Terrible, like things were coming, all the parody sort of things were coming out.
It was a parody. They got sued, right? by
Sued right out of existence. That's exactly right. I believe they called that sued to the ground. Right.
If I remember the story correctly, it was like a college student somewhere that came up with
you're
it.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you started seeing stickers around places and stuff like that. Again, kind of the classic underground marketing. And then I think he, like, hey, maybe I can sell stuff. And that's when the lawyers circled the wagons.
And that's when he knew he had fucked up.
That's right. That's right.
You don't mess with the North Face IP attorneys.
No, that's right. Those ice axes can be used for other things. Mm-hmm. So that's right.
Not only are you going out of business, we are going to slaughter your family. And,
all memory of you will be gone. That's right.
You fucked with the wrong brand.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's funny. All right, next topic is presented by Lem's Footwear, who's looking for retailers to come and say hi and see what Lem's can offer their shoe all when they exhibit at Switchback next month. So we got a couple of quick updates and sort of a Rock Fight lightning round that some things we've covered here before on the Rock Fight. I might even play some lightning round music or a sound effects or something just to make producer Dave happy because he likes that stuff. So the first topic.
I do.
Okay, last Wednesday, this is an evolving story, and we're recording this on Friday, May 30th, so if this has changed by the time this episode comes out on Monday, that's when we recorded it, and that's why we didn't address the changes. So last Wednesday, a U.S. Court of International Trade ruled that President Trump's tariff policies are illegal, and then the very next day, on Thursday, the ruling was put on hold as a federal appeals court considers the case. So and we got to talk about tariffs again for a second. Is this a case for optimism? Like, hey, maybe, that the first ruling holds and we kind of go back to where it was before, or will this ultimately just slow things down towards a long-term resolution?
No optimism. No. No, I mean, basically, this is, sorry. I'm Mr. Happy Pants again.
I'm not really surprised if I'm being honest.
Right. But basically, this is just going to be whack-a-mole. So the fact that they went for this is kind of wild because they used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to the cools. And basically, that gives the president special powers to confront urgent threats to the company. It actually doesn't mention tariffs at all. They just made that shit up, right? And so it was a bit of a stretch from the get-go. I don't think they're even going to try to fight this long-term because they're just going to move it to something else. Like they've already got Section 301, Section 232, which is more like national security stuff that they have in place today. Or they might go to Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which specifically allows the president to impose up to 15% tariffs for up to 150 days. So I think at a minimum, they do that to kind of keep the current like 10% minimum thing in place, buy themselves some time and then, figure out how to get their agenda handled a different way. And they can actually, after the 150 days, that can be extended by Congress, or they can actually impose even bigger tariffs, but after a commentary period. So it's not quite as maybe rapid as they would have liked, but they're not going to get off the tariff thing. No way.
That's a bummer.
Right.
like an hour of optimism. Like, hey, like the system works. No.
Look, even if the tariffs completely went away, they're still not optimistic in the sense of the disruption and the continued disruption and the uncertainty. It's just silly.
All right, and the next story we want to follow up on was Dick's had their earnings call, their first one since the Foot Locker acquisition that we talked about just a couple of weeks ago here on the Rock Fight. And key takeaways from the earnings call that the Dick's had up earlier this week?
I mean, overall, it was a good quarter. Comp sales up 4.5%, which is really quite solid. Also, they improved their gross margins by 41 bips. So, win-win from that perspective. The interesting thing, though, was despite the fact that they beat on the top line, they only reaffirmed their guidance for the year, which was up 1% to 3% comp. Mm-hmm. So that would tell you, we're doing 4.5% now, but we're not expecting to really do much in the rest of the year. I think they're especially worried about Q4 because they were up over 6% this last Q4, and they're like, how do we anniversary that thing? So, but from that perspective, I think they're reaffirming that, and they're saying reaffirming it while taking into account all the tariffs. The interesting thing there is that their guidance says that they're going to expand their gross margin by 75 basis points, right? 0.75%. That is after they've taken into account the tariffs. So I think there've been a lot of questions about, hey, like will retailers see some margin compression because of the tariffs, right? As the brands try to absorb some of it, and they say, hey, you take some of the pain, we take some of the pain, yada yada. I think the answer is the retailers, or at least the ones that have the pricing power of Dick's, are not taking any of the pain. In fact, they're looking to expand margins. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I noticed that there was there's someone on the call who hasn't been heard in a little while.
Yeah, funny. When the stock plummets after you announce an acquisition, suddenly Mr. Ed Stack shows up after 4 years of absence. And actually, I listened to the whole call so that you guys didn't have to. You're welcome.
Thank you.
But yeah, Ed was on there. It was
we were busy making AI bolo ties.
There you go. But clearly he's been doing the rounds with major stockholders, trying to convince them that this was an amazingly good idea. Like the quote was, "We understand that there's really a group of people out there, shareholders, that would really prefer we just continue to do what we were doing." It's like, oh, okay, yeah.
It's good you understand that. You must have heard that over the last couple of weeks.
They definitely heard that, and then he goes on to say, "What the street needs to understand is that, like it or not, we don't make investments or decisions for a quarter or two. We make those decisions and investments for a lifetime." And we do know that it's up to us to prove to the street and to everybody that this was the right decision to make. So, so they're basically saying, hey, we get it, sort of put up or shut up, make this thing happen. Personally, I think this is like a legacy deal, right? Ed is 70, right? He's thinking about his legacy. He's thinking about, what am I going to leave, And if his legacy is a $20 billion retailer, or a 21 or $25 billion retailer, that's a lot more than a 13 or $14 billion retailer. So I think there's a bit of that going on here. And actually, in this deal, it's becoming clearer and clearer that this Foot Locker entity will report directly to Ed. So there'll be a separate Dick's group, which is under Lauren Hobart, the CEO, and then there'll be a CEO, I'm sure, for Foot Locker that will report to Ed, but Ed is going to be calling the shots, and he is going to be making a big part. He'll be a big part of the team that will be dedicated to bringing Foot Locker on board.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is kind of reminiscent of like almost like a big media deal where it's like, hey, look, we're going to change the landscape here, and it's like we are interested in fundamentally changing the way footwear is, dealt with in the active space, right? That's clearly what they want to do here.
Oh, totally.
I believe that's called monopoly, Colin. That's the working term we've got for this new group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
that's true. Just clarify. Are they going to? Is the federal FTC going to have an issue with this acquisition?
Not this one, but
yeah. I think, as I said on the last call, I don't think they would have done this under the old administration, but under a Trump administration, with a Republican-friendly Ed Stack, involved. I think that, I don't know this, but I think that they probably got some indications that this thing was going to pass before they pulled the trigger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not Paramount where they have to sue 60 Minutes for $20 million for some bullshit reason just to get the Sherry Redstone thing through, right? I mean, this is going to buy. I'm sure this will be fine.
And plus, Lauren Hobart made the point on the call that even as big as they are, their market share is still, I think, only 6% of the sporting goods industry. I think that it would be tough, I think, for the FCC to really quash this, but you never know. But yeah, it's so the Lauren Hobart was fawning about Ed. She's like, Ed, obviously he's an incredible retail expert. He's got operational excellence, incredibly strong brand relationships, real estate development relationships. I mean, it's such a wonderful thing that he's going to be able to bring all of that expertise and partner with the Foot Locker leadership team to drive both businesses. So they're going to get the full Ed treatment and hopefully unlock a whole bunch of sales and margin, I guess.
Well, I think it's interesting in that little diatribe, calling out the real estate aspect of this, because I do think that's probably one of the most important pieces of this deal, right? Versus just even the shoes themselves. It's the how many Foot Locker locations there are, which ones are probably going to go away, but which ones super reinforce the Dick's kind of crossover. I think that's a big piece of this.
And you know, the Dick's folks are extremely strategic about their real estate. They really are, you know. And sort of all joking aside, the operational excellence absolutely exists within Dick's. You look at their profitability, you look at how at their labor models, et cetera. I mean, they know how to run a store, and if they can successfully take some of that DNA and implant it into Foot Locker, hey, they might be on something.
I mean, that's operations is something that probably we could spend a whole episode talking about. I mean, operations almost always wins, right? And if a lot of times, if you go look at some brands who are struggling or whatever, take a peek behind the curtain at how they're running things, even if it's a good brand, if it's good product or whatever, it's like it's usually something in that side of the business that is causing the problems, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good operations can cover up a lot of sins on elsewhere in terms of the retail. But yeah, I think they've got the combination of differentiated merchandise and good operations, right? And that's what really is the secret sauce.
All right. Well, interesting. I guess we'll wait to see Ed Stack rolling around in his Air Force Ones, you know, because he's going to be leading the Foot Locker team. Some Dockers and some Air Force Ones. That'll be how he shows up to the next call.
Maybe.
All right, last one in this part of the pod. So after their second best winter ever, but also a winter that was a PR nightmare given the strike that went down in Park City, Vail Resorts is swapping out CEOs. Kristen Lynch is, quote, stepping down, and Rob Katz is returning to the role he held from 2009 to 2021. Another kind of media comp here, right? This has shades of Bob Iger returning to Disney to right the ship. I mean, Owen, do you think that's a fair comparison?
I think it's spot on. You know, I mean, you've got sort of this previous star CEO who became the chairman, coming back as the CEO because you've got an underachieving company that's under pressure from an activist investor. Check, right down the list. I mean, it is basically the same deal. And like the activist investor was calling out the fact that since Lynch's appointment in 2021, Vail stock has dropped 47%, while the S&P 500 has gained 39%. So it's
yeah, and you marry that up against the earnings they put, or the results at the end of a season have been never higher, right, for the past few years.
Well, never higher, yes, in terms of revenue, but they've been under strain in a lot of other ways too, and I think that the big thing is that the Epic Pass it's basically plateaued, right? They've kind of squeezed all of the blood from that stone, and for the first time last year, actually the number of Epic passes they sold was down. Okay, so it was down 2%. Now they were still able to increase sales by a few percent, but that's only because they hiked the price by 8% on the Epic Pass. So the pass that was originally $579 when it was launched in 2008. Last year, it was over $1,000. It was $1,050 or so. So, yeah, I think we're getting to a case where it's like, it's pushing people out, right, from an affordability perspective. And then those that are stepping up, if you're spending $1,000 on an Epic Pass, you're like, well, I'm going to go to as many. I want to get in as many ski days as I can, which then leads to overcrowding. It's a classic kind of, tragedy of the commons issue where you've got this finite resource and people who are allowed to take as much of it as they want. So everyone takes as much of it as they can until it becomes absolutely fucking unusable, quite frankly. You see some of the lines, and this was before all the strike stuff. I mean, just the lines at these resorts. It's just shitty experience. They're going to really have to rethink how that whole thing works.
What's the ceiling for the ski world? I mean, to have another year like this, we're constantly the up against the climate change, and the growth of ski continues to see unbounded in a lot of ways. Every year it's like visitation's up. I mean, is that just PR tweaking, good PR tweaking to kind of like present the industry in a positive way? I mean, would you invest your own money in snow sports, Owen?
Not really, because visits are up, but it's mainly because of this fact that you've got these unlimited passes, right? Because it's interesting. It used to be back in the day that visits and equipment sales kind of went hand in hand, right? Good ski season from a visits perspective meant good equipment sales. Those two have now been completely, changed. And so you talk to somebody who's running a ski store, it's like, no, I mean, we haven't had a great, we had a great season in whatever that was, 21, 22, but since then it's been really rough. And then there'll be other seasons where it's just up and down. So yeah, the epic pastness of it all has really changed that aspect. Because also it used to be, hey, if we get good snow, that would also then drive visits, which would then, and it was all kind of linked. But now it's just like, hey, you're buying your Epic Pass in whatever it is, August, way before the snow season, and so and then that's the other part of the problem is with some of this climate change stuff. If you get fewer and fewer good snow days, that even further concentrates all those people that spent all that money on that pass back in August trying to get onto the mountain.
Dave, you gonna start skiing this winter?
No, my Epic Pass ran out.
We can't leave Icon out of this too, right? Isn't Icon? That's the other.
Icon's the other one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's the Indy Pass. Get your Indy Pass. Go see an independent resort. That's the way to go.
Exactly.
Epic and Indy.
All right, well, that segment is brought to you by Lems. At Lems, we're all about creating footwear that fits the way your feet are naturally shaped, comfortable, functional, and ready for anything. One of our newest releases, the Trailblazer, is a wider, roomier version of our popular Trailhead, and it's quickly becoming a top seller this spring. The Trailblazer, also a producer Dave favorite. He's been kicking around some Trailblazers lately. We're stoked about the response and can't wait to show it off. Come check it out at the Switchback event in Nashville, June 17th to the 18th, or snag a pair now at lemsshoes.com. But yeah, you like the Trailblazers?
I do like the Trailblazers. Super comfortable and out of the box.
Yeah, that's a good shoe.
Really, right.
What type of shoe is a Trailblazer?
It's an outdoor sneaker.
Hiker. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'd call it a sneaker more than even a full trail shoe.
Kind of shades of 90s ACG, I'd say.
Yeah, well, color-wise for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great wide toe box, super comfortable. The cuts on the heel come down; they don't like hit in weird spots. It's substantial. It's a good shoe. It's a well-made shoe. No doubt.
Their fit is really awesome, and that's the when I gave my Joy was talking about the Switchback sandal, which is looks like the Bedrocks. I could not get over the fit. I give them credit; their fit is excellent. They really obviously spend a lot of time on the fit of their shoes. You're listening to Rockfight Radio. Oh, you got DJ CT back with you spinning the hits, and it's that time because we have another new song from that hit machine, Fitz. And Fitz wants to ask you, why just settle for a smart sock when you can opt for a smarter sock?
You've got a million choices lying on the floor. Thin ones, thick ones, even some you never wore. But there's a sock whose specs rise above the rest. Don't settle for a smart one when the smarter sock is best. Opt for the smarter sock. Fitz. Fitz is the smarter sock. Fitz. Whole foot comfort is the answer to the question of the knit. Fitz. Opt for the smarter sock. Fitz. Whole foot comfort is the goal. It's only common sense with 4 different patents. The difference is immense. The Y line's added volume really is legit to the next level. Comfort of the fit we call Fitz. Opt for the smarter sock. Fitz. Fitz is the smarter sock. Fitz. Whole foot comfort is the answer to the question of the knit. Fitz. Opt for the smarter sock. Fitz. The smarter sock. Fitz. Fitz is the smarter sock. Fitz. Whole foot comfort is the answer to the question of the knit. Fitz. Opt for the smarter sock. Fitz.
And now, back to the show.
It's time for a party shot.
All right, time for the parting shot. And Owen, I think you have our parting shot today.
I really wanted to put a call out there to all of our listeners to help support small outdoor brands. They really need your support right now. The current uncertainty about tariffs, regulations, public lands, and what that's going to do to visitation of national parks, tourism, the overall economy, all of the consumer uncertainty, all of that stuff, it really overly impacts small outdoor brands. And they're the livelihood of innovation and passion within our industry. And quite frankly, without your support, some of those brands aren't going to make it. Okay. So what I'm asking our listeners to do is just think about how they, in their roles, can help emerging outdoor brands. So if you're an outdoor enthusiast, you're listening to this pod because you just love the outdoors, really consider an emerging brand for your next purchase. And oh, by the way, be willing to pay full price. And when you get the product, write a nice review, interact on their socials, and just talk them up. Okay, so that's one. If you're a retailer listening to the pod, just consider adding buys from more emerging outdoor brands. Okay, and when you do that, don't just stick them in the back of the store. You're buying pants and you just stick them on the jet rail in the back of the store. Consider more exposure on the shop floor or on your website or in your marketing. Put them up front, and actually you'll get a good return because people will see that it's not the same old stuff that's in every other store, right? So, but make a big deal of it. For sales reps that listen to the show, I know at least a few that listen to this show. Think about taking on and mentoring an emerging outdoor brand. And I get it. They're probably a bigger pain in your ass than they're worth, right? You're not going to get a great commission on those initial opening orders. But you know what? Take one under your wing, educate them on what it means to become a good outdoor brand and really help them to become something. And you never know, you may have the next Cotopaxi, the next Hydro Flask, whatever, that will really grow with you. And I mean, I had some reps who grew with brands like Arc'teryx and absolutely killed it over the years. So think about that as you bring on these brands. And finally, for the big brands that listen to the show, and we know they do because they were all excited to be part of our apparel top 5, look for collabs. Look for other ways to work with these brands, bring them along. It doesn't have to be a competing brand. Maybe you're a snow jacket brand and you collab with a goggles or a helmet brand or whatever. But let's work together. Let's support these brands and let's support the overall industry.
I've heard the North Face does a collab every once in a while.
Not so much with emerging outdoor brands, but yes.
Well, maybe they should do that, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Is Skims an emerging outdoor brand?
Yeah. What's that?
Is Skims an emerging outdoor brand?
Yes.
Right?
Because they've entered the outdoor space. They're emerging in outdoor.
Well,
I
$1 billion emerging brand.
I do think it's important, though, when we talk about a collab, it's not necessarily you have to create a new specific piece of product that that you get behind. It could
find
be
a complimentary,
just on social media. It could be just in terms of introducing your audience to these folks and just creating, promoted posts and things like that, where you're like Eoin said, you're just kind of giving them a leg up, helping them get out there and keep this industry fresh, because that's how the big brands benefit from this. We need to have a vibrant, kind of a current underneath there, keeping new people in and interested. And I think it's really important. And I really think it was really great of you to call out Fitz for being one of those brands you would support like that, Eoin. That was just
absolutely.
But there are got blacked out during that part of the conversation. But
there are examples. So, for example, Burton is working with NARA to really introduce the GoFly zipper technology on ski bibs. And actually, there's a coordinating undergarment too, or a base layer. Sorry, coordinating base layer that works with the SheFly technology as well. So there you go. There's a big brand, Burton. I'm a big fan. Working with an emerging brand to really not just give NARA and that technology a heads up, but quite frankly, I think it's great for Burton. Because Burton comes out of this looking like a brand that really has, their finger on the pulse of what's going on, thinking differently about how they work for female athletes that are on the mountain and making their life better and easier. Especially if you're a backcountry skier or backcountry snowboarder. So yeah, I mean, look for those sorts of things where you can really work together, and it truly, it's not. This isn't like a charitable thing. This is like win-win stuff. I think all around if you
Oh,
do
yeah.
it right.
That's really
Like, would
important.
you do it
Yeah.
like if Merrill, like, would you rather see like another attempt by Merrill to like enter apparel in a meaningful way, or hey, they partnered with like Howler Brothers or something, right? They're like, hey, look at this
Sure.
awesome new shoe, and here's our apparel partner on this shoe. Like, that would be way more interesting, right? Like, do what you're good at and bring somebody else who's good at what they do, and do something together. So,
Or Merrill works with Burton on a really amazing shoe that. Sorry, no, maybe not.
oh, they did that. It's still burned into my memory. I still have nightmares.
We're going to add letters to the alphabet to accommodate the naming conventions of the next collab.
We went through the English and Greek alphabet, and
That's
we
right.
need more. Yeah, Latin?
Mhm.
Is that up my
Yes, Arabic. Yeah.
All right, that's the show for today. We want your emails. Please send them to myrockfight@gmail.com. The Rock Fight's a production of Rockfight LLC. Today's episode was produced by producer David Karstad. Art direction provided by Sarah Gensert. For Eoin Comerford, I'm Colin True. Thanks
Who
for
is
listening.
Eoin Comerford? Wait a minute.
No, he just...
You did not use the word consigliere today in any
This is the
discussion.
first time. I
of
called him
Eoin.
captain.
You did.
Right, but that is not.
For the Outdoor Industry Insider, the Consigliere, Captain Eoin Comerford, I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And
Thank
he's
you.
going to take us out. It's Krista Makes. He's going to sing the Rock Fight fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters. That was great. Good call, Dave.
I kept waiting for it. Just waiting for it. Come on.
Rock fight.